In this episode, KJ and I are going to be talking about a situation that triggers us both. There is this one kind of behavior that we find ourselves confronted with from our children, and we genuinely don't know what to do sometimes. So we're going to come together in this episode and we're going to talk about it and we're going to see what comes up.
Welcome to the Fiercely Gentle podcast.
Gentle parenting is not just about how we respond to our kids. It's also about who we are becoming as parents.
So many of us were raised in traditional homes and were taught to listen and comply. But now we want to do things differently. I'm KJ Altoff.
And I'm Ashley Kanazowicz. We're two imperfect moms trying to navigate parenting, overcome our triggers, and share what we're learning so you don't have to feel so alone.
Let's come together and learn how to become more fierce in our values so that we can stay gentle in our parenting.
This is Fiercely Gentle.
Okay, Ashley, we have something to talk about, something that both of us get triggered by, but in different ways. We've talked a little bit about it together off this podcast, but we're actually going to try and process as much as we can on today's episode.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a really unique episode because sometimes we come here with anecdotes of our parenting that we have already processed through, and we're able to give examples of how we wished we had responded or how we know that this was rooted in some kind of need or whatever. But in this situation, we kind of discovered that we both feel a little bit lost
Yeah.
when it's happening and how to process it and like maybe what to do next. So we're going to do that in real time.
Yeah. Because normally you and I will each bring up something and then the other person will have some insight like, oh, yeah, that's bothered me before. Here's how I've handled it. Or here's what I know. But in this case, we're both like, yeah, this actually triggers both of us.
Yeah.
And yeah, what do we do? Because we both get flustered in those moments, even though we have been practicing gentle parenting for years and have learned a lot. There are still things that we're learning how to get through. And this is one of them. Because this is a challenge for both of us, we're going to process it on this episode. But then we're also going to invite a friend of ours and who is also a certified parenting coach onto next week's episode to actually help us process it further, because sometimes it's really helpful to have an outside perspective come in and help us reflect on why this is such a trigger in both of our lives.
And I like that after we had discussed it off the podcast, we both decided maybe we could use a little guidance in this, since neither one of us really knew how to handle it.
We even struggled with how to talk about this topic. Yeah. Because it's so hard to put into words. It really is a feeling that happens when we have these interactions with our kids. And the best way that we could describe this trigger, or what triggers both of us, is feeling like our kids are gaslighting us.
Mm-hmm. Now, before you all get mad and come for us, let us explain. We know our kids are not gaslighting us. We do know that. We know that they are not intentionally manipulating us or trying to hurt us. Our nervous systems don't know that. And so when we find ourselves in these situations, we are feeling gaslit.
Yes.
So that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, that's the best way we can describe it, because it is the feeling. That's how it feels sometimes. And maybe for those of you who aren't too sure of what it means to gaslight someone, it's basically somebody invalidating you or telling you that your reality is wrong. And that's a very common experience that many adults have with their adult relationships. But the difference is that when it's between two adults, the adult who is gaslighting the other adult is intentionally doing it. They know what they're doing. They are manipulating the other person on purpose. Whereas our kids are not doing it on purpose, but we are receiving it in a similar way, because when we have these interactions with our kids, the whole perception of feeling like we're being gaslit feels the same, even though the interactions are different. So that is the best way that we can explain this topic in this episode is that feeling. Even though we know our kids are not actually gaslighting us, that's how it feels to us in the moment.
To me, it feels like if you get in a car accident, okay, if the person wasn't trying to hit you, your body or your car has still been hit. Like your body doesn't care if the accident was on purpose or not. Your body has been hit and your body now has to seek medical attention. And so I think that that's why it's been such a struggle for us, because in adult relationships, when adults are on purpose maliciously trying to gaslight you, that feeling feels the same within us when our kids are unintentionally trying to like process in a weird way that has the same results as us getting hit by that gaslighting car.
That's a really good point, because the physical reaction is there regardless of the intention. So I think that's a really good analogy to explain why this can feel so triggering for both of us. And this can apply to any trigger that any parent experiences or any behavior. Before we share our specific examples of how this impacts us or how we have experienced it with our kids, I just want to note how interesting it is that we're both able to see it from a logical standpoint. We understand that this is a trigger that is tied to our childhood and that it's not really about our kids, it's about us. And we can come from a very logical place and knowing and understanding that. And we can also still feel very emotionally triggered when we experience it. Like if we both experienced it again with our kids tomorrow, we're still triggered by it. It's still something that is very biological and very much physical in our body because we haven't fully worked through that healing process yet of healing that part of ourselves. And so I just think that's so interesting because that's the whole point of reparenting is first being aware of what your trigger is and then kind of backpedaling and asking yourself questions and trying to understand where that connects into our childhood. And that's why we're having our friend come and help us with this next week, because it is helpful to have an outside perspective, ask the right questions, and help us really reflect and connect the dots on why certain triggers exist for us today.
If you've experienced narcissism or gaslighting or anything to this like abusive extent in the past, which I'll say I have, when you're healing from that, you work so hard to tell yourself that it was not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. They were abusing you. And so you're training your brain to acknowledge that what happened to you was not okay and that you need to like be strong and stand up for yourself and set boundaries. And so then when that feeling comes up with your kids, you're having to do the exact opposite. And you're having to tell yourself, they're not abusing you. They're not intentionally hurting you. And so it's like this inner war of what you've had to go through in order to heal from a past trauma versus now you don't have to do that because it's your child.
Yeah. No, exactly. Because that is the shield that we've put up to protect ourselves from feeling whatever feeling we had as a kid when we would experience that gaslighting, right? Like that feeling of shame or rejection or feeling like we aren't loved or unworthy. So we put up these shields to protect us, these defense mechanisms. And you're right. And we have them up for our kids because, like you said, that physical experience is the same. So we're trying to protect ourselves. But we have to remember that we don't need to put these shields up for our kids. We actually need to learn how to take them down. And it's hard to learn when to put the shields up, when to take them down, when the shields are actually needed, or when it's okay to completely remove the shield and know that we'll be okay without them.
And it's hard to take that shield down when you're feeling attacked.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's dive into what this actually looks like. We'll do our best to try to describe it. We both kind of struggle to describe the situations, but we'll do our best.
Yeah. So why don't you start, Ashley? Why don't you share your example of how this trigger shows up in your life?
Okay. So my son is 6, and this is something that he has just started doing like within the past year. So let's say, for example, my son says, "Can I have a snack?" And I will say, "Yes, you can have a snack, but first, can you please put away what you're playing with?" And then he'll say, "You don't want me to eat food. Why do you want me to starve?" And I know that that's his reaction to me not giving him the answer that he was expecting. And if it ended there, that would be fine. but it always seems to spiral from there. And no matter what I say, it's like he is no longer hearing me. And he kind of jumps to this world of not quite reality. And so I'll say, no, buddy, I do want you to eat a snack. I said, yes, you could have your snack. I just really would like you to pick up your stuff first so we can have a clean room and then eat your snack. And he's like, you didn't say that. You said, no, I couldn't have a snack. And I'm like, I said you could have a snack. I just want, so like we go back and forth. And then he like starts to twist it and he'll be like, why don't you want me to have any toys? And it's hard to give examples because it's like none of it's logical, but he'll just start taking things that I'm saying and he'll twist them around to mean something that I didn't say. And then he'll blame it back on me and say, why did you say this? And I'm like, I didn't.
Yeah. It's like he's telling you what you said, but you didn't actually say that. But all he's doing really is just sharing what he interpreted. Like that's how he received the message, but he's doing it in a way that's saying, no, you said it this way. Like this is what you meant, even though where you're coming from is like, no, that was not at all where I was coming from or what I said. But he is like arguing like that is the reality. This is exactly the conversation we had.
Like we're both stressed out because I'm like, I didn't say any of those things. You're blaming me for stuff I didn't do. And I start to get very triggered and he's already triggered. And so then it gets to the point where he's like, I just want to be done with this conversation. Can we just be done? And I'm like, yes, please. And then I won't say anything. Like I'll say, yes, we can be done. And then I won't speak. And he'll go, why aren't you talking to me? And I'm like, what do I do?
Oh my gosh. I'm laughing because I can understand that exact scenario.
And I'm like, it's like one of those moments where like time kind of stands still and you're just like, I don't know what to do next.
It's like you try to grab for your gentle parenting toolbox where you communicate. You're like, okay, we are remembering things differently. You think I said this. And then their response is like, no, I don't think that's what you said. You did say that. That's how my son responds to me too. Or I'll say, so you feel like, this way. And it's like, no, I don't feel that way. It is that way. That's the response. And it's like, okay, where in my gentle parenting toolbox is my next response for, this
you don't want to get stuck in this, like, yes, I did. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No,
where are you getting
battle with your kid.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want you to actually walk away from this thinking that I intend for you to starve.
Right. Right. And it's so simple in our minds. In your mind, it was very simple. Yes, you can have a snack after you pick up your toys. Like super easy. I'm not asking you to clean the whole house or, mow the lawn or anything like that. It's just pick up your toys and then let's have a snack. Very, very easy. Yeah. And then it turned into, you want me to starve. You're a terrible mom because I'm starving.
Yeah. Or he'll say like, why are you forcing me to have a snack? You're telling me to clean up my toys and you're forcing me to have a snack. And all I want to do is play. And I'm like, dude, you asked me for a snack.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So those are my situations. You can hear in like my storytelling that it triggers me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm joking and we're laughing, but like in the moment, it's like deer in the headlights. I'm like, this is so painful internally. And like, I know that you're 6 and I love you, but like WTF.
Yeah. Because in the moment, how do you move forward when, again, you're trying to set those boundaries. You're trying to set the boundary of, we can have a snack after we clean this up. Like this just has to get done first. Having it turn into this bickering that's going in circles. And then you end up spending more time in this circle than when if the task just got done, they'd move on. But it's how do you have that logical conversation with the 6-year-old who isn't thinking logically. And in the moment, he just wants his snack. He wants it now. And
didn't get the response he wanted.
Right. Yeah. And also as a parent, it's not like they'll be fine. They might be hungry, but it's not like they're actually starving. They ate 2 hours before that. So, in your mind, it's like, no, we have to practice completing tasks first and then moving on to the next thing. We can't, especially if that's a family value of yours, we clean up after ourselves and then we move on. And it's not coming from a place of like, nope, it's not time for a snack yet because I said so. Yeah, I would be happy to give you a snack. This has to get done first and then we'll move on. So coming from that and then having that bickering back and forth, it would be really hard in the moment to move forward from it because you're like, you're just not, we're not on the same page right now. And I don't know how
Yeah.
your page, because your page is you just want your snack. And that's not how this works.
And your page is also not true. For the listeners who can't see, like, this is actually giving me stress hives talking about this. Like,
Yeah.
this is how much it triggers
Oh
me.
no. So it is.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very real physical response. Like the fact that I am actually breaking out in a rash right now, I think just goes to show it's not even happening to me. I'm just talking about it. But already my body is like in panic mode, just like
Yeah.
reliving those moments.
I have questions I want to ask about your childhood, but I want to save that for next week's episode because
Yeah.
that will be like our processing. And this episode is more of our introduction or our explanation of the specific trigger. But I already am so curious. I'm excited for next week's episode because I'm so curious how it ties to our childhood.
Me too. And I have stories that I will share.
Boy, do I have stories. Yeah.
Oh, do I have them? I was going to say too, I feel like another reason it's so triggering for me is because I don't know how to make it stop. Like most of the time as gentle parents, we can figure out like, okay, let's go take a minute. Let's do some breathing. There's some kind of method that we have trial and error figured out that can help to de-escalate the situation. But, and KJ, tell me if this is your experience too, when I'm in the middle of this gaslighting experience, I don't know how to make it de-escalate. I don't know, because if I say something, it gets twisted. If I say nothing, I get yelled at for not saying anything. If I ask us to go take a break, I get accused of not wanting to be in the same room. So it's like I haven't found any kind of way to help us both regulate.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard in that moment to de-escalate when you are escalated. Clearly, you're experiencing a physical reaction right now, just talking about it. So I can understand that in the moment, it would be very, very hard for you to de-escalate yourself because it's a very triggering experience for you.
Yeah.
And thinking from, like a gentle parenting perspective, I could give my child the snack and that would de-escalate things. But then it's like, where's that balance? Because how am I teaching him the skill that I want him to learn if I just give in? So it's that back and forth of I want to be a gentle parent and help my child through this. I also want to instill certain values and teach him these certain skills.
Yeah.
So where's that balance? And I don't have any advice in this moment because like we talked about earlier in the episode, this is the same trigger I experience. Again, I have different examples because my son's a little older than yours, but very much the same physical reaction that I get as well in those moments.
Why don't you tell us about your experience?
Okay, so my son is 9 and he does the same thing. I think there's so many similarities to how our sons communicate with us. My son loves to play games and mostly athletic games like basketball, soccer, baseball, things like that. And I'm not really an athletic person, but I will do my best to try and keep up with him and play these games with him. So the other day we were playing this basketball game in our basement. The basketball thing he has like a timer. It's like Pop-A-Shot thing. So there's different settings and you can play these different games and it tallies your points on purpose. We were playing against each other and he's very competitive. And most of the time, I don't care. But this time, I wanted us to play. There's rules and there's points, and it's the system that keeps the points. It's not us. And he was getting upset because I was winning, surprisingly, and I'm terrible at sports. And for whatever reason, I was doing very well. And that was really upsetting him. And so at the end, he told me, it's because you cheated. You started early. I was trying to explain to him, no, the system knows when you start early because it won't count your points if you shoot too early. And I know this because I've seen it happen. Like it doesn't count. And so I was trying to explain this to him saying I didn't start early because I actually know I did not start early. I waited. I intentionally didn't go early because I knew he would call me out if I did. But he was like, no, you did. You went early. You cheated. That's how you won. In the moment I was trying, see already there. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he was getting really upset. And when he is upset. He's like, as most kids are, they're not very nice. And
No.
I was getting triggered by it because number one, I wasn't cheating. I was being told I was cheating when I knew I wasn't. I wasn't being listened to when I was trying to explain calmly and rationally. Like I waited until the buzzer. It wouldn't count if I went early. I couldn't even finish explaining that because he was so upset. And then it was his reaction to me of like the yelling and the aggression, which also
Hmm.
triggered me. So in that moment, what do? I basically shut down. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a break from this. We don't have to play right now. Then he's upset that I'm not playing. And he's
Yeah.
like, you said you would play with me.
Yep.
So in those moments, it's like, okay, what do I do? We're both upset. We're both dysregulated and triggered in
Yeah.
that moment. And I don't know how to move forward because in those moments, he doesn't want to hear what I have to say,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's kind of where I feel like I get stuck in those
Yeah.
kind of situations.
And if you look at your situation and you turn it into two adults, that's some pretty significant emotional abuse.
Right.
If that was an adult speaking to you
hmm
that way and accusing you of cheating when the
hmm
system clearly proves that you didn't and not letting you speak, and our bodies don't know the difference.
Right.
And we both have, different experiences, different wordings, different ages,
hmm
even, but the result is this stuck
Yeah.
feeling of I know what I'm experiencing in my body. I
hmm
know that that's not really what's happening. What next?
Right.
And
Exactly.
you can stop playing with your son, but then he's going to get mad at you for not playing.
hmm
You can continue to play, but then have this like argumentative,
Yeah, it's not
kind of,
resolved. It's
yeah, you
unresolved
can
in the moment.
try to
Yeah.
resolve the conversation, but it's not going to go well. So
Yeah.
it's literally just this moment of like, what do I do?
Yeah,
And I think we
exactly.
both shut down because I also am just like, okay, yes, okay, can we please be
Yeah.
done talking about this?
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
think I think there are moments where I have conversations with my son afterwards. I've had so
yeah.
many of those learning or teaching moments where we reflect on something. I've
Yeah,
had
how
so
is
many of
he
those.
when he reflects back on those specific situations? Like, does he see what has happened
See, that's the thing is that I feel like those incidences are so minor. It feels big in the moment, but it doesn't
for
feel
you?
so big that it warrants this big conversation afterwards,
Yeah,
because I've had those conversations, but it's usually after something much bigger and then we
right.
reflect and we talk through it. Whereas this is like, okay, a little blip in our morning. It's not something that derails our entire day. We just both kind of get upset. It's like this conflict
Yeah.
that you have, and then you both are fine afterwards. It's not like this huge thing. Like we both kind of settle down. So,
Mine is different, maybe
yeah.
because my son is younger, but he will latch on and not let it go, even if
Mhm.
I'm, kind of shutting down and being like, okay, we're done. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
He'll like follow me around and like continue to
Oh,
yell and kind of like he needs to almost have that like explosive tantrum feeling
that
to
was my
like,
son too at that age.
yeah. And so for us, it does actually turn into like this big shift in our
Mhm.
morning or in our day. And one thing I've noticed is that when we do reflect on it, he does have this like deep feeling of remorse. He's able to
Mhm.
say, "I'm sorry I said you did this. I know you didn't." Like he's actually
Oh,
able to acknowledge
yeah.
that what he said
Yeah.
wasn't reality.
So my son does the same thing. He'll apologize after, but a big blowout.
Mm,
And now that he's a little bit
yeah.
older, that's when he'll apologize. But I do remember when my son was closer to your son's age and younger, he would tie the two and understand. I feel like now that he's a little bit older, the time we spend to reflect are on new situations or like new or like
Mm,
really big emotional meltdowns that don't happen as often anymore. We always still
yeah.
reflect. But because I've done so much of that processing with him in the past, it's almost like he would be really annoyed with me if I took the time to reflect with him on every situation we would have like
Yeah.
that.
He's like, I
Because
know, I
I
got
know
it.
he knows and he knows he knows. And he also knows and has acknowledged that he really has a hard time controlling himself when he is that upset. And
Hmm.
we've experienced this with video games, any kind of where he wants to win.
Hmm.
He's verbally acknowledged that it's so hard and he feels bad. He's
Oh,
asked me, like, why is this so hard for me, Mom? Like, why is it so
yeah.
hard for me to control myself? And then we have those conversations about it's hard. It's hard for adults. And that's why I'm trying to help you now that you're young so you can build these skills so it's not as hard for you when you're older. I feel like it's such a different playing field as our kids
Yeah.
get older. I'm entering now into this new phase where he's not a little kid anymore, but he's not quite a big kid. He's in
Hmm.
that transition where he doesn't want to have these reflective conversations with me all the time, but I know he still needs to learn how to communicate and control his behaviors when he's upset. It's not even like he had this meltdown where he was like throwing things or kicking or being aggressive. It was just his mindset of thinking, I'm losing, I don't like it. It's because you did something.
Yeah.
Like how do you help somebody see things differently if they refuse to see it that way?
Right.
That's where I'm stuck.
It's such a beautiful thing to hear that your son has such a safe relationship with you, that you guys kind of have this understanding that, like, he knows this is hard for him. You're not going to harp on him about it every time it happens. And you both have kind of like agreed to just grow through it together without needing to, re-talk about it every single time it happens. And like, that's what a gift to grow
Aw,
up in a
you're making me
household like that.
emotional hearing that. I'm like, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
It's just so
I've
special to not be like told every single time.
never thought of it that way. I'm actually like emotional, like hearing you say that. I've never thought of it that way. Instead, I've always thought about like, what am I doing wrong? What am I supposed to do in those moments? And so hearing that perspective is refreshing to think. I think as parents, especially gentle parents, we're constantly like, how can I be better? What am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? Like, how am I hurting my kids right now? Whereas kids are going to be upset. They're going to be angry at you. They're going to yell, I hate you, and we're doing such a good job already. We're trying to do things differently and we're not going to handle every situation perfectly. Maybe there isn't a perfect way to handle every challenging parenting moment, but it's more of what's the bigger picture look like. So thank you for sharing that because that helped to change my perspective a little bit.
I'm so glad. In a previous episode, we talked about consequences. And I think for both of our children, eventually, probably your son is experiencing it already, they're going to figure out that when they talk to people they love that way,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
In your case, you wanted to stop playing the game with him, and that's a logical consequence. And he'll figure that out the more consistently that happens. Mine might be more emotional because my son and I both are very emotionally sensitive. And so he already comes to me after and says, like, I'm sorry I said those things. So, eventually I have faith that he'll
Yeah.
figure out that when that happens, he feels bad, I feel bad. And so, I think it just really is a testament to how there is no script, there is no
Mm-hmm.
playbook to handle every single situation. And as long as your values are rooted in gentle
Mm-hmm.
parenting and in connection, even those moments where you don't know what you're doing or maybe you've reacted the wrong way, hopefully you can still have a growing
Yeah.
experience regardless of whether you feel like you've handled it properly.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is more challenging the younger your kids are because you haven't fully established
Hmm.
that cycle of we're experiencing a hard moment, we're getting through it, everything's fine, our relationship is safe and secure still. It's like you
Yeah.
have to have continued cycles of this. And you're still going to have hard moments, but your child, as they get older, are going to have a stronger foundation of trust in your relationship. There's still so much growing they have to do with us and relearning that we're safe people for them to
Hmm.
experience those challenges with. And I could say the same for you 100%. Your son feels safe enough to tell you exactly how he interprets, how he feels with the conversation with you versus he could just shut down and just
Right.
think those thoughts and think my mom doesn't want to feed me or my mom wants me to starve or he could just internally be thinking those things and then you not really knowing where he's coming from or understanding what he's thinking, but he's able to verbalize that and know you're a safe person for him to communicate what his reality looks like for him.
Yeah.
And it's really us learning how to our own reality, or like our own perception of the reality, because we're looking at it from our lens still. Like they're telling us, they're invalidating us, they're all this stuff because of our childhood experiences,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you said is so interesting because now you've changed my perception of this whole situation. Because it's almost like he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what the reality is. He's trying to figure out how to explain how he's feeling and he can't. And so he just says some like bogus, not true thing. But he feels safe enough to completely not make any sense at all and blame me and yell at me because maybe he trusts that eventually I'll help us get there,
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that as more of
like
a feeling of security.
Like he's processing out loud, like his thoughts, and we're processing internally. We're trying to understand and connect. Like we're doing all of this internal thinking and processing and trying to navigate how our bodies are feeling. And our kids feel safe enough to tell us exactly what they're thinking when they're thinking it out loud to us because they know that we can handle it.
We'll still be there on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I am so glad that we talked about this today because I feel like we both just gave each other some different perspectives that we can hold on to when we're in those moments.
Yeah.
And I am so looking forward to next week's episode.
Me too. I think that's what I love about our conversations because you and I are able to bring different perspectives into these different parenting challenges that we each have. But this is a unique one where we both have the same trigger, maybe in different ways. And we could use some help with processing it and really hearing from an outside perspective. And so I'm also very excited for next week when we invite Erica on here. Again, Erica is a friend of ours. She's a certified parenting coach and her kids are older. She has 2 sons, one in college, I believe, and one in high school or that age. So she's been through this phase of life of parenting already. And so I'm really excited to hear her perspective and how she can help us process our trigger and how it maybe connects to our past.
And I just want to say, go us as adults, as moms, for admitting that we could use some help. I think that's really hard for adults sometimes to admit that they need help, especially in parenting.
Yes.
And if we can just set that example to everybody, you're not always going to know what to do. And it's okay to reach out and to ask for help and ask questions.
Yeah, 100%. There is no one out there who knows how to do everything perfectly. And we need to rely on each other to help see things in a different way. And I think that's really what's so important of this podcast is a way for us to show other gentle parents that there is no perfect way to handle every situation perfectly. And even us who've been on this journey for years, we still get stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for listening. We're grateful to have you in this community.
Parenting this way isn't easy. We're all learning, showing up every day, reflecting, repairing, and continuing to grow.
If anything in today's conversation resonated with you, or if you have a question or topic you'd like us to talk through in future episodes, we would love to hear from you. We'll share our contact information down below in the description.
Until next time, be kind to yourself. And remember, you are a fiercely gentle parent.